Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Babbling Irons channel. And football's back, guys. Nice little 2-0 win to kickstart our pre-season tour. Nothing really major to shout about in terms of, we didn't thrash them like 8-0 or anything like that. But, still got the win. That's all that matters. And, we got Mike and Slough here today as well. So welcome, lads. And, I guess we'll go through it half by half. And then at the end, we'll kind of summarise who impressed us the most out of the youth players that played and that kind of thing. And just get a little bit more insight into how they played. But first kind of 20 minutes was a bit of a nothing contest, really. We were kind of knocking the ball around nicely. And then we got that first goal about 26 minutes in. Strange goal. Fornals just whipped it in from a free kick. Their goalkeeper just completely missed it. And it ended up just falling to Alessi for a tap in from about 2 yards. And then other events in the half that happened, they actually had a couple of decent chances, to be fair. They hit the post just before half time. I can't remember his name, like Chris Badir, and he beat Dawson and Ashby, just cut inside both of them and then just tried to drill it inside the near post and unfortunately hit the post for him. And then about a minute later, their right back just screened on from about 30 yards and Fabianski had to tip it onto the bar. So it wasn't a comfortable first half, but what did you guys make of the first half performance overall?
Yeah, I thought, it was typical pre-season game. Players finding their feet, not only with the pace, because obviously this is essentially, I think, their last pre-season game as well. So they're in effect match fit and ready to go for their season kicking off next week. So it's a good test. I think you could see overall we had the superior quality, especially in the first half with the players that we had. The team looked, I wouldn't say sharp, because there was at times where there was an opportunity and it just wasn't kind of working. But, we held the ball well. They got a good run. We saw some youth players, and we'll just talk about the first half, obviously. But, we saw a couple of good players. I thought Alessi, considering the centre forward had a lot of pace and had a real lot of pace. Gave Alessi a hard time in terms of chasing, but I felt he dealt with him quite well throughout the game. He didn't really give him much of a chance to kind of get in behind and get much of a shot off, or when he did he kind of got into closing down. Coventry was tidy in possession without necessarily creating or doing much. But then again, I don't think any of our players really did a huge amount in that first half with the ball. It was conservative. Let's just use the ball. But yeah, it was comfortable, bar the post and the crossbar getting hit. But it was largely comfortable. It was a decent. That first half was very much a decent run out for players to find their feet during a 45 minutes worth of football, I think.
Yeah, I think in the first half especially, you kind of saw Coventry in midfield with Lanzini playing as a 2. And we had Ben Rama out in the middle, through the middle, and Fornals out on the right-hand side. What we kind of saw there was we didn't really have a player to kind of find those pockets out wide. And it was, we had Masuaku one side who, in all honesty, wasn't doing or offering much. And Fornals out on the right. And as we know, he's not a wide player. So I guess, Slough, for kind of Coventry's sake, what do you think his best asset will be in that central midfield position for us?
I mean, full disclosure for this, and I should tell you, I've got COVID. So I started with good intentions. I watched about the first 5 minutes, and then I was off. I was completely gone. But for my 5 minutes worth of watching, before I was rescued by my girlfriend, who literally poked me with a serving stick. She's been bringing me stuff and told me to wake up. I think it was good to see so many youth players there, and I think if Coventry wants to really kind of take a role in the side, it's got to be one that he knows is going to be nothing more than it's going to be competition. It's going to be a role where he can be given a chance and told, look, this is you've got to impress us here. You've got to really make sure that you're trying to grasp this. And we've spoken about his abilities before, and I think he's starting to show a bit more of quality that isn't kind of needed for this level. But when we speak about the signings that we're making and players like Twine, I don't quite think he's at that level yet. So he'll need to really kind of work on taking chances when he gets them, and to really, if he's off the pace, he's going to have to make sure he really steps up in terms of work rate. And I think that's something that Mark Noble always did. If he wasn't having the best technical game, he'd always give you a 10 out of 10 work rate. So he's got to look to try and fill that sort of void.
Yeah, I mean, for me in that first half especially, we'll get over to the overall 90 minutes at the end of the video, but I think Coventry looked probably one of the better players on the pitch. He didn't look any worse technically than the likes of Lanzini, who played next to him. He seemed comfortable in possession on the half turn, was looking for forward passes as well as not just, passing it backwards all the time, which I found really, really impressive. In terms of the other kind of youth players in that first half, we did play a back four, and we had Ashby at right back as well. He looked like he was... He's much more aggressive compared to our other fullbacks that we have in terms of, Ben Johnson or Cresswell. He's much more aggressive in how he tackles, and he's someone that likes to get forward. And we saw that in the first half. He was overlapping a few times, made a few really good runs. But defensively, he still looks like he's got a lot of improvement to do before Moyes would consider him for the first team. He's definitely what you'd want from a modern fullback, but again, defensively, he needs to be a little bit better because his positioning was definitely off a few times when they got in down that left-hand side. And also, even when we were kind of sat in a back four, it was very easy for them to kind of overload that side and get in behind. And that's my one thing with Ashby. I really, really rate him. I really think he can be the next one to come through for us. I just think defensively he needs to improve, and that will come with a bit more experience and a bit more time, whether that's on loan or whether that's a chance with the first team next season.
I think one thing that he showed as well is that he's got really good ability to run with the ball, and he can run at pace with the ball as well. He from the 10 minutes that I saw, I think he already kind of battled for, or looked close to winning a few corners, but he beat his man quite a few times. And I think when Johnson first came through, both me and my dad said he's got that ability to beat a man, but it will be the defensive side of things as well that just need to improve. And if they have the same kind of trajectory and improvement, then I think we're looking at a very good young player there. But also, we've kind of spoken about tactical variations this year, and I think the three at the back could allow a player like Ashby a lot more luxury in terms of taking those chances and losing the ball. It will give him that cover. So if Moyes does want to do that, I think that would really help bring some of these youngsters through. And it would just be a case of letting him flourish, letting him make mistakes as well.
Yeah. I guess, Mike, for you, we played that back four in the first half, and before we get into the second half, we switched to a back five, and Ashby played wing back there as well. So what did you make of Ashby in the first half? Because Connor's left a comment here. He says he might get a bit more game time now Frederick's gone. I guess that would also depend if we then signed a left back, because that would leave us short the other side. So what did you make of Ashby's first half performance, at least, anyway?
Yeah, I think kind of echo what you said. When he goes forward, he looks like a very good player. He does have the pace as well to kind of beat the man, and it does have a good level of strength. So when he's in those kind of physical battles, he does do quite well going forward. That doesn't necessarily translate it the same going the opposite direction. In particular, the shot that they got to hit against the post, in that one, you can easily argue both him and Dawson They weren't great. They both
Yeah.
were moving quite slowly. Well, Ashby was the wrong side to even make a challenge, so you have to credit him for that, for not trying to be too eager and too keen to try and win the ball and then make a mistake and give away a silly foul, which would result in a penalty. But again, I think we also have to caveat it with, look, it is pre-season. They're all getting their feel back and, getting a kind of to grips with a new kind of situation. Obviously, it is a jump up in level of class, because obviously he has only been playing under 21 football, really. Yes, they aren't great, but their left winger did have a bit of pace about him, had a bit about him in comparison to the rest of their team. And again, they are also fitter than us at this point. They are ready to start their season. But when he goes forward, we get some really good crosses in, really smart deliveries. The thing that I like is that he doesn't have any real kind of fear about him. I do think that next season, for his development, he needs to just play. Just get him out on loan. Don't keep him around to be part of the team.
Yeah.
It doesn't aid his development, really, unless you're going to play him. So for me, if we're gonna stick with a back four for the majority of the season and just going to be around the squad, that to me doesn't. So I don't understand the point of that. He's 20 years old. I'm pretty sure there is a championship club who will be willing to take a gamble on him, or even a League One club who would be willing to take a gamble on him. So get him playing football, keeping him around the club to get a feel for it and to, learn from the players is all well and good in theory, but you're not a Phil Foden training with Man City players who you can do that and you are going to still develop. And even then, he got quite a substantial amount of games. We kind of think, he didn't play very much and he was really good. Why is he not playing? But he's still got a good level of games. And if he's only going to play 5 games, that's not good enough for his development, because it's going to be sporadic as well, those 5 games. It's going to be, maybe in that cup game, maybe that one. So any of the youth that played today, for me, if they're not going to play, at least 10 games, then they need to go on loan, and that's why I think Ashby's at. If we're gonna convert to a back 5, then he's probably worth keeping around. Or if we expect to play a back 5 quite a lot, he would be the player I would probably play. I definitely over Johnson. I think he would be a decent bit of competition for Soufal. But again, that depends whether Soufal's comes back at full fitness and back as a Soufal from season 1. But even then, I don't think Soufal's amazing as a right wing back. So Ashby, given a run of games, probably could be our best wing back because he's very good and aggressive going forward. He's got enough pace to get back. But again, it's going to be a formation that we're going to play sporadically, and Soufal's always going to be preferred, and most likely so is Johnson. So do we really need 3 right backs? Or it's good to have options, but I personally think that he needs to go on loan. He needs to play at a higher level, because he needs to essentially be tested defensively regularly to improve his game. And I don't think in the under-21 league there is enough of that to do that. And if he's only going to be a bit part player, I don't think that's also going to benefit him in that respect. We know he's good going forward, but I think there are other areas that he's only going to learn from by playing and making mistakes in that role.
Yeah, I mean, we did see him in a back 5 in the second half. I think we made about 6 changes at half time, and we saw the likes of Longello come in, Ekwa, Trott in goal as well, and Mubama up front, the 17-year-old. So we did see a different kind of system in the second half. And you know what? We actually started really well. We had Fornals playing centrally, which is what we all want to see. Ben Rama out on the left as well, another one we wanted to see. And we had Ashby at wing back, we had Longello the other side, 2 forward-thinking defenders, and then also Alesse stuck in as well into that back 3 with Zuma and Diop. So I think we started really well. I think Coventry nicked the ball in midfield, played a really nice pass through to Mubama, and his shot was saved. And then Ben Rama somehow missed the rebound. And then about 2 minutes later, Ben Rama picked up the ball on the left, which we'll probably expect to see a lot next season. Cut inside, nice shot, saved by the keeper. And then the 17-year-old Mubama was there to slot it home with a nice back heel. So, absolutely delighted for him to get his first goal for us, albeit a pre-season game. But, it's impressive stuff, 7-8 minutes into your kind of West Ham first team experience and getting a nice back heel goal. So, yeah, I think we started really well. Like I mentioned, Fornal centrally, just such a different player in the middle of the pitch. And then I think with about half an hour to go, we saw the likes of Okaflex and Chester's come on, which we'll get onto in a bit. And then, yeah, I guess for the rest of that half, it was kind of a nothing game, kind of just getting the fitness up. And they did have a couple of chances. They did hit the bar again. I think with the number 7, like dinked trot, and it hit the top of the bar. And another one, we tried to play the offside trap, just completely messed it up. And they were through 1-on-1 and he somehow missed. But yeah, that was pretty much it for the action for the second half, other than that early goal for us. So, Mike, I know you watched it a bit more, more than stuff. What did you make? Like I mentioned there, Fornal's in the middle, a back five. How do you think the players kind of adjusted to that?
Yeah, I think the back five suited the personnel that ended up being on the pitch. So, Longelo, as he showed against Dinamo, he could play as a left back. I always will have some question marks to think about him defensively from what I'd seen previously in the under-23s, but it looks like he's really improved that over the last year or so. Obviously, Ashby suits that role. It meant that Alessi, who I was saying last year is good on the ball. He can pass it. He will likely get forward. So he does allow, and he even did at one point. He got forward, breaking out of the back three to get forward. He also has pace as well that he does. He made some great recovery runs for the rest of the defense, who just kind of were jogging. But he always seems to have intent that he always runs at full pace all the time, which is great. I like seeing that from Alessi. And even though he did have a difficult game, I wouldn't say it was difficult because he didn't play well. It was difficult because the striker he had to deal with that all the time. Whereas he didn't obviously target Dawson because I think physically he thought he wasn't going to get anything out of it, and he probably thought he could against Alessi. And he did quite well in marshalling him. I think he pretty much restricted the centre forward, to be honest. And even though they tried to stretch, I think Alessi's pace pretty much marginalised anything. And the one where I think when they got played straight through and he just burst back, it was a great block from him to put it out for a corner. Obviously looped it over the bar, but I think he did quite well. Divan, when he came on, his movement was quite good, and we said again on our channel that Sonny Perkins leaving is disappointing, but when one door closes, another one opens, and he's been incredible in the under 18s and I think under 16s. And then obviously last season he got his under 23 debut, scored on the last game of the season against Swansea. And the first game of pre-season he goes and scores again. But it was his movement to get the space for obviously Ben Rama's one, which he was slightly, let's cut him some slack. He was off balance when he tried to take that shot. He had to
I think he should have scored, to be honest.
He probably should score, but I think, in all honesty, most of us would say he should score. But most of us, if we're unbalanced and trying to contort our body to hit it, we're all going to scuff it. So, it's arguably harder to miss sometimes. But again, it's
an armchair fan. It's he should have done this. Like,
yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, right? I don't care if he misses 10 chances in pre-season, because if he then taps one in on the first game of the season and we win 1-0, who cares? Like, yeah, we want to see players scoring in pre-season for confidence and things like that. But ultimately, it's all irrelevant pre-season, right? It's just about a time for some players to kind of stand out. I think what Divan did was a good thing for him, because he's just shown that, well, if you don't have got players and you gave Perkins a chance last season, I'm now here. So you may have lost that kid, but don't worry about him. I'm here now. I will be the next young centre forward you maybe want to look at. So he's done himself no harm. His movement was pretty good. Obviously, the shot that he had forced a really good save out their goalkeeper, and then obviously the goal was well taken. A little bit of invention, a bit of cockiness to even I think, well, why not? I'll try it.
I think it was more instinct, to be honest, which is good.
Yeah.
Such a young age.
I need to get something on this. I need to put it away. So he did that. So it's I think there are some good players in there. Obviously, Coventry was tidy. I don't think he necessarily did a huge amount in terms of creativity. And that's my one worry with our midfield is that even with Ekwa's a presence in that middle. He can break things up. He can pass it. Yeah, he's a good passer. But again, what my concern is with West Ham in general is there is a real distinct lack of creativity in the centre. Now, some people go, well, we've got Lanzini. Lanzini is very effectual in possession, but once we get into those final thirds, he can be quite ineffectual with creating, and he can make some key passes, granted, but he never seems to be in that position enough in which to affect play. Now, and that's where I think then we lack, because he's coming back to keep possession and tie things over like today, and obviously he was in a midfield too. So today's not a fair reflection on his creativity, but it does highlight a point as to even in a deeper position, the passes weren't necessarily always that penetrative. Does just kind of knit the play together, but at times it's not necessarily breaking those lines or trying to force the ball through. It's more about retention, and that's my concern is we don't have maybe someone who's going to make that pass that's arguably 50-50 but make it work more times than not.
I think the player that we have right now who can, or who's most likely to do that, is Fornals. And so when we do see him in that central position, like we did for about 15 minutes today, I think he made about three really good passes forward. One to Ben Rama, one out onto the right to Ashby, and he looks just so much better in the middle. And he does look like a player that we saw it against Man City last season towards the end. That pass through to Bowen. Not many players would do that. I don't think Lanzini would do that. Ben Rama might try that kind of pass, but I think I'd trust Fornals to make it more. So, Slough, I guess you didn't particularly, Slough, you didn't really watch the second half, so it's hard to comment on that, specifically. But you've seen Fornals enough to know what he's like as a player. Do you think that he is the one that can play in that central role for us next season, or do you think we need to bring in I don't want to mention his name, Moyes' beloved son?
I think it's one of the reasons that I am so comfortable letting Lanzini go. It's nothing against him. I think he's a fantastic finisher. He's got so much ability, but he hasn't progressed in the way that I think we all wanted. We were all hoping for a Payet kind of player, like Payet level, I think, from him. And he can create these magic moments and score incredible goals. But he just doesn't produce it enough. If he did, he'd be a world-class £80 million player. But he just doesn't. And I think when you look at what Fornals did, particularly in La Liga, like the stats and I won't target the stats too much, but the results that he really helped push it's fantastic. The amount of assists and the goals that he scored, but the things that he did on the pitch as well. He can move the ball fantastically. He's so skillful. We just haven't really seen that yet in the West Ham shop. We've seen glimpses of it, and we've seen some of the brilliant passes that he can play. But the footwork we haven't really seen. I think the thing that I think stands out in my mind is that Leicester goal when he just took it in the sky, like that absolutely incredible touch. And that's a glimpse of what he can do. But there's such a good player there that I think if you have players around him who are willing to kind of run, throw themselves at everything and create the space with a bit of pace. They can, Fornals will find them, Fornals will latch onto that, and he'll create a chance. It's I think he's a fantastic little footballer, but he's been played out wide for some reason. He's happy to go there, but normally it's just from that centre attacking mid position. And I know he's been compared in the past to Santi Cazorla, and I think that's probably the best kind of player to reference, because he's not lightning quick. He's not going to give you the kind of ability to beat three men at once just by knocking it past them. But he could easily get three men boxing him in, and then suddenly do a little flick, scupper past them, and play it through. But he won't go way past them. He'll literally just release the ball. It's a different style of player, but I think playing him centrally will reap a lot of rewards. It's just a case of, are we going to take that chance?
Well, let's face it, he was once referred to, and it was by the player himself, as a successor to Iniesta, because there was for a long time talk of him going to Barcelona. It just seemed that was the natural progression before we swooped in. And even Iniesta said that is my successor, essentially. I've said before that I think Fornals ultimately is more of an 8 than he is a 10. I think with 10, you need to have a bit more pace, and you also need to be a bit more. This needs to be a bit more clinical play, I think, in a 10. I think at 8, he's perfect, especially if you're going to play like a freak. I think, and Fornals was going through the centre. He's so much better than being played out on the wing. When he played right wing at the start, and it was just. he got into the game in a bit, but it just is not his natural game. But again, it's pre-season, right? He got a good run out. He looked positive. He looked good. Benrahma had flashes where he got the ball, looked positive, looked good, held the ball. What was promising was the fact that in other pre-seasons we've been quite lax on the ball in pre-season. In the first game, it hasn't really, the tempo's been slow. There were times where the tempo wasn't slow, and I think that's again maybe just the youth being in there, that there's that just little bit of injection of wanting to do well. Now, I don't think any youth player actually stood out really, like in a way that you'd go, oh, they're really trying to make a claim. I think there was just a very tidy, functional performance from all of them. I wouldn't say from seeing any of them that any are going to break through, in my opinion, based on what I saw today. Now, they may do better in the other games. I think what will be interesting to see who goes into the game for Ipswich, who goes for the game in Boreham Wood, because I think that will give you the indication as to who does Moyes think is going to be in and around until he makes that decision as to, right, you lot are going on loan, you lot are staying. I think that will be interesting. Okaflex again had some bright moments. He got a ball run with it. It was quite positive. But again, no one really stood out. But it's the first game in pre-season. So let's, some people will just use it as an example to go, well, they're not ready. But it's a pre-season game.
Well, I saw one Twitter account just absolutely retweeting Benrahma agenda. I'm not going to mention who it was, but it's just like 45 minutes of a pre-season game. It's just getting slaughtered. So
it's ridiculous. It's pre-season. I don't care if the player loses the ball every time he touches the ball in pre-season. All I want to see is they're out there, they're running around, and they're getting a feel for it. If he keeps losing the ball, he's not going to start the first game. It may also then encourage the club to go and buy a replacement or buy a better player. It's not a bad. We've had when we had one of our best seasons ever in pre-season, we got relegated. One of our worst pre-seasons, we went on to get up to almost European qualification. Pre-season doesn't really mean anything. It's all about fitness. So if a player's got a bad touch and they're not really performing in pre-season, it might impact where they go in the pecking order at the start. But it's not always necessarily a barometer for how good they are. It's pre-season,
Yeah.
The key is in the name. It's before the season. The form isn't their season's form. So let's just calm it down.
That's a write-off. That is
Yeah, exactly. Write him off, sell him. It's rubbish. It's just ridiculous. Come on, it's a pre-season game. No one is. You're all coming back from the holidays. It had 2 weeks worth of training again. To kind of get into things. We're obviously trying to play in a bit slightly different way as well. And again, when he went to left wing, he was more productive than he was in the centre.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because again he had to come so deep to get the ball, and Antonio was kind of fading in and out within the first half as well. But again, that's because of the service. The ball was constantly stuck in that middle area, so players were having to drop deeper to try and connect. And then if you did get the ball, Fornals came inside, which meant you had nothing on the right unless Ashby pushed right up. So there's so many other things, and just to pick the one player and say, well, he's lost the ball. Well, why has he lost the ball? Is it lost the ball because his touch was bad, or is he lost the ball because there's no options to pass? It's always easy to have a go at the player who loses possession or the player that missed the tackle and say, well, they're the reason. It's not. It's normally about 3 or 4 other situations within that have caused the problem.
Yeah.
But if you only ever focus on the one, then you're going to miss the entire picture. So sometimes you just need to just take a minute. He missed a sitter. But again, it's pre-season. It doesn't matter. The results don't matter. We won 2-0 in a pre-season game against a team who's about to go into their season. That's positive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's take some positives anyway. We saw a lot of youth players today. I think personally that I know you mentioned there, Mike. No one really stood out. It was quite tidy, but I think that someone like Coventry, I think that's what he's like as a player anyway. I don't think he's going to be a complete standout and give you everything. I think if someone like Declan Rice put in that performance that Coventry put in, albeit it's a pre-season match, people would be saying that was a very good game or very solid performance. And there was a couple of times where Coventry was pushing higher and did win the ball when we then transitioned. And also, I was just very impressed in how he kept the ball and how composed he was. And he wasn't just playing it safe all the time. He did try and play a few forward passes. I really like Coventry. I just think that he's not going to be getting in just because of the signing of Downs. It's a similar type of player or position to what he would play anyway. Souček and Rice, I can see both of those being there next season as well, and probably we're looking to sign another central midfielder as well from the looks of things. So I think I agree in terms of I don't think there's going to be a standout one that's going to necessarily break through. I think it's going to be very tough for someone to break through, and if they do, I think it will be because of injuries or just Moyes giving them a go in, say, the Carabao Cup, and they just perform really well, and they get that chance to perhaps being on bench. 5 subs next season could also play a part. So yeah, I don't think there was necessarily a standout. I think the ones from the youth players that stood out were Alessi after the first 10-15 minutes, which he did look a little bit shaky, but then settled down nicely. Coventry as well, another one that was, for me, the standout. And, next to Lanzini, especially in that first half, didn't look like he didn't belong at that level. And Ashby, who I've mentioned before, is one of my more exciting prospects from the youth, but has a long way to go before he'll probably be able to impress enough to get into our first team, and definitely needs to go out on loan. So, yeah, I guess there are positives to take. There were, like you mentioned, it's pre-season. It's just about fitness. It's about getting back into the routine, into the swing of things. And, we're missing about 7 or 8 first-team players today. All of our new signings weren't even there. Rice, Souček, even Vlasic weren't even there. So let's not panic if there wasn't like a standout. Or Ben Rama missed one chance. It doesn't matter. We got the win, and we've got another 2 games on Tuesday next week, which is Ipswich and Bournemouth at the same time. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see who we go with in terms of both squads. Like you mentioned, it'll probably be an indicator as to what Moyes wants to do next season and who he's been more impressed by throughout this pre-season training camp. But But yeah, I guess any final thoughts from you guys? Anyone you're kind of looking forward to seeing a bit more of after that first game?
The only thing I'd say is that I do really like Coventry. My question is always going to be this season: do we need just another tidy player?
Yeah.
I think that's my thing. Do we need just another tidy player? Flynn Downs, tidy player. Rice is tidy, but he's not necessarily that creative. Souček, bit untidy, but he scores goals. So
Yeah.
you can turn around and go, well, you got 2 tidy players. Well, you're gonna add another one. Okay, that's fine. So you've got 3 tidy players, but which one of them is going to create something? Not really anything. Flynn Downs only got 2 assists last season. When you see his heat map, he does not go in that final third, and he doesn't really pass very much into the final third or the penalty area. So again, you're asking Coventry to do that. Can he do it? Most probably good, given the freedom to do it. But again, is he going to get that freedom? I don't know. Is he? What I would potentially say is, does he have the tenacity to do that himself on the pitch? Which is one of the things wouldn't say I saw today. But again, pre-season, so we know we'll allow it. We'll allow off. But again, I think we need a player that, from a central midfield point of view, is a deviation to what we have and is more progressive and will actively look to put themselves in positions where it's going to be awkward to take possession of the ball. The passes that they're going to have to make are going to have to be challenging but high reward.
Yeah.
That's the type of midfielder we want to look at. And we spoke about who I think that should be anyway. And funny enough, guess what? He has the same. He's at the same agency as Flynn Downs and Warburton's daughter works for. So let's see what happens there. If we've got any common sense, that's a conversation we're having. But again, Coventry did well, so it'd be good to see him play again. Again, we mentioned about Mbamba. I'd like to see him more. Saw him a few times for the under-21s. Looked good. I think he looked good again today. He's mobile, he's quite active, but again, he's very raw. So I don't. He's not going to break through in my mind. But it was really positive to see him score. It's positive to see Alessi score. Once Alessi got into the flow of the game, he did look good. I've said before that I think his route was previously to maybe go in as a left back. I think if we switch to a 3, then I think he's got a very good chance, because at the moment we don't have another left back, do we? So, exactly. or even a wing back. And I think, based on the pace, I think he'd quite like to use Alessi if we changed around the defensive configuration. Because obviously you can have Zuma on the right, you could have Aguerd centrally. Obviously, I know people are going to say, "Well, no, you're going to have Dawson there," but when you talk about rotation, he may be positioned there on that central left side. So yeah, they're good players. Leslie, I think, is probably the closest at the moment as to having a chance to break through. But again, let's just say I think he's got a chance to break through. He had a decent game, and the positive are that 2 young youth kids scored in a preseason game, and we won 2-0. Well, first preseason game of the season, we won 2-0. It's nothing to go crazy over, but it was good. It was some positives. So yeah, let's concentrate on the positives.
Yeah,
someone lost the ball once in a preseason game.
Yeah, I mean, stuff. Yeah, I know you didn't really watch much of it, but is there anyone you're
looking forward to seeing all of them? I'm looking forward to seeing all of them play.
Yeah, I mean, well, we'll see. We'll see what Moyes does on Tuesday anyway. How he kind of splits it up, and I think we'll have a few more players in the squad as well. Downs should be meeting up, and I think most of them will be back from holiday. Whether they'll be used for the game or not, we don't know. I suspect a few will, even if it's 45 minutes or whatever. So. We'll look forward to that one on Tuesday. And before we sign off, just a thank you from all of us for reaching 100 subscribers. Big milestone for us, and I guess the next target is 1,000. So thank you all for your support. If you haven't followed us on Twitter, make sure to go follow us over on there. We've got some really good stuff on there that Mike does as well, at Babbling Irons. So go check that out. We're close to 1,000 followers on there as well. So if you enjoyed this, leave a like, and we'll be back either tomorrow or Sunday for another video. So guess there's one thing left to say, boys. Come on, you irons.
Come on, you irons.